Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to BRAP Basement Radio Arcade Podcast. It is June the 5th. I can't believe it's June already. May just flew by so fast. And we have a lot of gaming-related news or topics to discuss this evening. Big week for the video game industry, as a matter of fact. We have Summer Games Fest and the Xbox Showcase, which we will be discussing here shortly. And before we get to our topics, I want to thank everyone in the live chat for joining us live. It means a lot. See some familiar faces. So, as always, thank you again. And I'm going to drop the link in the live chat here. If you could do me a solid, please retweet the link. Post it on your favorite social media platform. Let everyone know that we're live. Again, I always appreciate the support. And please smash that like button. Helps people find the channel. If you're new, subscribe and hit the bell notification so you're alerted when we go live. So we're going to have some of the rest of the panel joining us here shortly. But we do have a first-time guest, somebody I've known for quite some time here. I want to welcome Fuzzy Belvedere to the show. Fuzzy, welcome to BRAP. Great to have you on. Thank you.
Oh, man. Thank you for having me. Greatly appreciate the invite. And it's an exciting time gaming-wise, just in general. But looking forward to this weekend and some of these topics. But it's nice to be here. Been in the lurking in the chat for a bit. I know you've seen some of my responses and stuff when you were doing like some of your rants in the past and stuff like that. So always good to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I certainly appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. I know I've been trying to get you on for the last couple of months or so, so really appreciate the time. And what a perfect time, by the way, because this is a big week for the gaming industry. A week that many of us look forward to in terms of game announcements, which we'll, again, talk about here shortly. But I got to ask you, Fuzzy Belvedere, as a first-time guest, what games are you currently playing right now?
Oh, boy. It's a mixture of a couple of them. Like, actually, earlier today was Forza Horizon 5. Like, that's like my normal go-to in my rotation. I try to get the weekly cars and things like that they have. Been logging in daily for Undisputed, which is early access on Steam right now. It's getting ready to do their 1.0 release. It's coming to console this October, so definitely be on the lookout for that. If you've been waiting for a fight night game for EA to get off their butt and make one, this will be a nice holdover at least until, EA sees the money that these guys are making and then they decide to make another fight night. But Undisputed, good boxing game. It needs just a little bit more polish before it goes to its 1.0 release, but it's a pretty solid look, solid mechanics. About the only missing mechanics are like the hold or clinch, but that's because they're redoing the animations on that. More than likely by the 1.0 release, it'll be, patched and whatnot. But other than that, it's a solid boxing game. And then hop back into Diablo more recently. What they've done for Season 4, they've made the loot a lot more, I wouldn't say a lot easier to obtain, but a lot more rewarding as opposed to like getting stuff that was 9 times out of 10 lower than what you were already wearing.
Yeah.
Now it's at least a bump up from what you've had on, or it might be a totally different type of role, but it'll at least be a higher or more valuable, piece and stuff like that. So Diablo's kind of got me. I'm going to wait until the expansion, but figured, let me give it a try. Some people have been saying it's been good for them. So yeah, it's definitely worth hopping back in, especially if you want to, a faster grind to 100 level character. I think they've improved some things as far as that time to 100 type of deal compared to previously. And then other than that, not much else. Like I've played or dabbled a little bit with like Vampire Survivors, another one that's in rotation. The Division 2 is another one that's in and out of rotation sometimes.
Yeah.
But outside of that, and then always GT7, which I haven't posted as many videos as I usually do, but always doing the weekly stuff on that as well, because they actually have like a weekly thing so you can get like tickets, or like usually it's either money or parts for cars or a whole new car type of thing. And if you compare it to what they were previously offering as far as the grind, it was a lot harder to get, prize money or cars and things like that. Now they've added, like a weekly incentive, or like not just a daily incentive, but like a weekly incentive on top. So that's always a good one to go back to as well. But it's kind of been what I've been dabbling with these past few days.
I tell you, I've given some thought of maybe getting back into Diablo 4, but my backlog's pretty bad right now. I'm still coming off of getting ready to wrap up baseball season. That's kind of kept me really busy because there's a lot of practices, games, and so. But yeah, I'm still crawling. I'm getting close to finishing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and nice. But yeah, Diablo 4 is one that with this release, I've seen some folks on Twitter and I've watched a couple of podcasters talk about some of the things you mentioned, some of those quality of life improvements. I think Logic had mentioned too that they added some HDR implementation there with this update, or ray tracing. Yeah. I think it was. Maybe it was ray tracing. So there's some like new graphical features there, and he said that it looks really good. I mean, I thought Diablo 4 looked good anyway, but he's saying with the ray tracing enabled, it looks really good, and so it may be a game that I eventually get back to at some point. But yeah, I mean, there's just then we had the Elden Ring DLC. I don't know if you're a Souls-like or Souls, I should say not Souls-like, but a Souls board fan. But that's another game that's coming out this month, and certainly one that I'm looking forward to. So just a lot of stuff to play right now, which is good. It's a good problem to have. It's a great problem to have. True. Yeah, but I want to go to our panel member here, B Money. B, what's going on, man? B is muted. All right, yeah, he's muted. All right, then I'll go to Game Logic. I want to welcome Game Logic to the show. Logic, how are you?
Good, man. Good. How are you?
Doing well. So, yeah, Logic. Fuzzy's mentioned GT7 and Forza. I think you mentioned Forza Horizon 5. That's the other racing game you're playing, correct?
Oh no, I've been playing EA Sports F1 24.
I meant Fuzzy, not you, Logic.
Oh yeah,
Fuzzy's playing those games. Yeah. And I just bring that up because I know that you also enjoy racing games, and I heard you say on E2KG that you were playing. Is it F1?
Yeah, EA Sports F1 24, and then I've also been playing Horizon Chase 2. That was kind of the tail end of last week, and as this week kicked off, I've been going back to Diablo 4 and Unicorn Overlord, as well as some Call of Duty.
Nice. So was it because I know we discussed Fuzzy mentioned some of the quality of life, the loot drop improvements that they've made in Diablo 4. I think you mentioned that there's some graphical improvements as well, or options.
Yeah, I don't know if those necessarily came in on this drop, just because I haven't really been back to Diablo 4. So they may have come earlier. I just noticed that they were, like I said, there's ray tracing options that have been enabled in the graphical options menu, and they look good. They were really a big pickup in how the game looked at kind of launch in those initial few months.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, and I want to go to B. B, are you back? I see your mic is muted. I don't know if you're back, but I don't think B's back. All right. Anyhow. All right. So, it's funny. Before we went live, me and Fuzzy, we were discussing the PlayStation VR2 adapter for PC. So that was a news item this week, and Logic, we talked about this earlier, and I was kind of like, it doesn't. The adapter doesn't allow the PSVR, doesn't incorporate some of the features that the PSVR2 has if you utilize it with the PlayStation 5. It doesn't have the haptic feedback, the eye tracking. I forget some of the other features that are missing. But I kind of looked at this as kind of okay, well, why would they? This is kind of an odd one for me because they're putting it on PC starting this August. I believe the adapter is $49.99 or $59.99, and it's a USB cable that runs from your display port to your PC, and I just with some of these missing features, I was like, and I said this to you earlier, who is this really for? This just seems like a trivial move for me for Sony to put, and I know that one of the criticisms some people had, Slow-Mo even had this criticism of PSVR2 was that when it launched, it didn't have the ability to connect to your PC. Like you just couldn't use your PC as an option. Now this is giving you that option, but then the part that's kind of the head scratch for me is that it doesn't allow you to utilize some of the what I would describe as some of the core feature sets of the PSVR2. So, logically, what's going on here? Because again, this just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think I mentioned that I think there's been a lot of focus on this thing coming out as if its intention was to enable sell through of their remaining inventory that they've got sitting in a warehouse somewhere, right? And I think there's potentially that knock-on effect that might happen, but in the PC VR space, the thing will compete against the Valve Index, which I was actually surprised because I've been checking in on it because I checked in on it this week as a result of this news story, and that thing, which was originally priced up at $1,000 for a very long time, is now down at like $500, and is natively tied into Steam at a deeper integration level than a third-party headset would be. HTC has a number of Vive headsets that product line has continued to expand in terms of kind of premium VR sets, and those are those are $1,000, $1,200, $1,300. So PSVR, I don't really know that it ever had like a real huge shot to come out and compete against those headsets. At least not in a way that would like be some overwhelming success where something like this was gonna be pointed at trying to strong arm a bunch of market share right in one fell swoop. It's just going to be yet another VR headset, right? It's an also ran in a market segment that I don't think has had the traction and growth that a lot of the games media told you that it would have. So this device, as far as I'm concerned, is primarily it's a mea culpa, right? It's a make good for the people who are already invested and already bought the PSVR2 headset. It's in many ways the type of thing that they didn't do with the Vita when they launched it, whether it was because of its own traction in the market or because they chose not to support it. And it's always difficult with these things to figure out which is the chicken and which is the egg. But with the Vita, they just dropped it. And they were really silent for a very long time when it was clear that they weren't going to support it, which is kind of a little bit of what we see going on here. I think there's a little bit more transparency, I think, in tea leaves that are presented that should tell you that the PSVR2 isn't going to have a lot of legs going into the back half of the console generation. So I think this is mainly for the people who spent the money who are now going to be disappointed that it's a thing that they can buy that gives them dual use of the headset across PS5 and PC.
Yeah, and I don't think I don't think logic this is going to be a situation where, and I think you said this, but where this adapter is intended to sell even more, or I think you said sell through their existing remaining stock or inventory of PSVR2 devices. And I'm not saying I'm sure some people might pick it up because of this, but I would my own opinion on this is that there are better options on PC for VR than PSVR2. It just seemed odd to me that they were just giving you this adapter, but then not incorporating some of the feature sets that I thought made the PSVR2 an attractive VR device for someone who might be interested in having that VR experience. Fuzzy, what are your thoughts on the Sony's selling of this adapter and then not having some of these features ready for PC?
I agree with logic as far as it probably is to sell through what they have on shelf kind of thing. When they first announced the PSVR 2, I thought it was a perfect opportunity for them to at launch have it where it would be compatible or PC right out of the box, which I get it. It may not seem like it's an on-brand type of thing, but I think as they want to expand into the PC space, as far as getting that mind share or that market share in that realm as well, having a competitively priced item, because at that point it was either just prior or just after the Quest 3 had come out. I figured it was within a reasonable spec and price point within that market. Now, sure, like you said, the Valve Index and stuff like that, or the Valve more expensive one, has gone down in pricing since. But it seemed like it would have been a better idea to make it so the eye tracking stuff and at least the haptic feedback, provided that the software or the devs themselves have it implemented in the software, which for their games on Steam they do. If you have a DualSense controller that you're using, you would think that would be something that would be somewhat easy for them to have it as a pass-through type of deal. But for whatever reason, I guess they chose not to put that much time or effort into doing this adapter, which is, it's a shame to some extent. Like, for me, I didn't pick up the PSVR2, nor have I picked up a Quest 3, although I'm leaning more towards a Quest 3 at this point. But for me, the big selling point for a PSVR2 would have been for GT7. And at this point, I'm still fingers crossed that they port that over to PC, because I would love to see what mods would take that to and make that maybe a better baseline as far as a sim platform, as opposed to a set of Corsa kind of deal. But yeah, it just feels like they threw this out there. It's kind of like, let's go ahead and just at least make this available. Let's clear the inventory. And like you said, it I don't know if this is the doom and gloom for the PSVR itself, but it just seems like Sony wants to move on past it at this point and just kind of liquidate whatever they got left on store shelves type of thing. And that's a a bummer to some extent.
Yeah, and go ahead.
I think there's some financial and technical reasons, potential reasons, right, for those realities. The question. So one of the questions becomes, how much are you going to continue to invest, right, to keep this thing going, if the upside doesn't have that much potential? And I don't think it does. I don't think it has any barnstorming potential to like take the PC VR space by storm, even if you have those capabilities. What I would suspect is, I forget who I was talking to the other day, but I talk to my teams a lot when we are architecting and designing software about being cautious about the notion of what I call coding ourselves into a corner, meaning architecting and designing applications and services without thinking 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, of potentially different purposes, right, that the software might be used for, and therefore not leaving ourselves open to an architectural implementation that would allow the application to be more flexible and to be additionally purposed for some feature set. So if you do that, right, in the PSVR 2, because one thing we have to consider is that the design for this thing started right before this generation even launched. And so if the vision had never been to enable this thing for use on the PC, which I don't think that it was, then a lot of those considerations wouldn't have taken into place. The other thing that I can't tell how much of the PlayStation abstraction layer and lower foundational code that headset, that whole PC VR kit is dependent upon. And so if it's dependent upon something like content that, for instance, say, isn't available in DirectX, right, or isn't available on the Windows operating system, and it is dependent upon proprietary pieces that they have in the PlayStation OS, then the question becomes, okay, how much work are you going to do to get that stuff over there, integrate it with Windows to enable all of these features in PSVR 2? And I think, to me, the writing was on the wall that probably requires a level of effort that they would have chosen, wasn't worth the investment when, there wasn't going to be some big market share grab and upside for them for PSVR 2, and it wasn't going to have legs. Like we said, it's not an adapter that's being sent over there so that a lot more PSVR 2s can be sold and be like permanent residents in the PCVR space as a competitive product. It's just to get rid of the remainder that they have.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm
Fuzzy.
sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, man.
I was going to say it totally makes sense. Like I wish they would have had that, the extra, effort put in. But like you said, the cost analysis probably didn't make sense. So it's like, yeah, I totally see why. It's like, this is enough. Let's go ahead and clear the shelves and move on from it. But we'll see. Maybe people will find a way to hack through with that adapter, much like they had to do with the first one. Even though it wasn't as much of a feature thing with the first one, it was just a matter of making it, somewhat usable on PC. And then I guess PlayStation was like, screw it, we give up on fighting that with patches and updates type of thing. So maybe the community will, figure out a way to get the haptics and the eye tracking to work. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, and I guess it begs the question: is this another device that maybe? And I don't know if you said this earlier, Logic, or maybe this is something we discussed earlier today. But to me, it begs the question: is this something that maybe Sony's moving on from? And I think Logic, you gave the examples today of the Vita.
This thing will be collecting dust in your utility room. Right, in a matter of months, unquestionably, just like my 3 VR headsets are now.
Yeah,
right. Like it's absolutely unquestionable. You will probably get like 1 or 2 additional releases, a year for the next couple of years before the thing entirely peters out. I think. I mean, to me, there's been clear indications that there's no longer going to be a big push behind this. And we talked about what the potential causality of that is. I mean, again, going back to like what we saw happen with Vita, my only guess, and again, these are all guesses and speculation. My guess is that there was an intention to put the oomph behind it, but for whatever reason, difficulties with the technology, people didn't make the transition. Let's remember going back to, like, for instance, PlayStation 4. When PlayStation 4 came along, and Cerny came in and told all the developers, hey, you guys are going to go to an x86 platform, that was a big fight because those guys had gotten their brains wrapped around coding for PowerPC a generation ago, and they were like, this is never going to work. We're not going to be able to make the transition. It's going to be too hard. And that was several months of arguing with those development studios to get them to shift. So, here comes PSVR2. There are some changes. I don't think it was as extreme as like going from PowerPC to x86. But the point being, my only guess, as we've seen in other production pipelines, is it just didn't all come together the way they had planned. There was no way to, studios were probably asking for more people, more resources. There was probably not a willingness to put that additional investment behind continuing to ramp up and staff up when they were looking at, having to lay people off. And so, it just didn't come together and the choices started having to be made. Like, are we going to continue doubling down on this, or are we going to let this thing go? And my guess is they just decided, as we are oft fond of saying, that the juice wasn't worth the squeeze.
Yeah. And, and then we haven't heard anything about, in terms of any sales numbers from PSVR2, and I tend to lean towards that this thing may have not sold as well as they were hoping, because they've been kind of quiet about it. We know that when companies, their devices or whatever products do well, as we see with the PlayStation 5, they tend to make that very public, and we just haven't heard anything for quite some time with regards to how the PSVR 2 is doing at retail. And I haven't been keeping it up with PSVR 2 development, but has there been less news or even with their recent state of play? I think there was one VR game that they showed at the state of play, but has there been less conversation or news around future VR titles for PSVR 2 than in the past?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not seeing anything that tells me that like the production pipeline is being filled and that new projects are getting greenlit. What the sense I have of it based on what we've seen, and again, this is a very similar to Vita, it seems to me like the production pipeline is drying up. And if it were me, and this is the kind of thing that I were doing, I've had this conversation very frequently over the last couple of years. We've been managing team transitions and things like that, or planning to get out of a particular market or business area. And I've talked about, let's flush the production pipeline. Like let's figure out the critical stuff that we're going to deliver.
Yeah.
Let's put the minimum number of resources on that. Let's complete it and do not start anything new. And I don't care who asks, right? And it seems like that's kind of where they're headed with this.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, I had high hopes for the PSVR2 on console. I thought that specs wise, it was a good device. Go ahead, Logic.
Yeah, I think and Compo Smurf mentioned it in the chat. I think there were 2 games shown during the showcase for VR. I think the thing I think I might be hesitant about is tap dancing on, that this thing must not have sold well. Because let's go back to Days Gone, right? Which actually, as far as we know and have heard, did meet its sales markers, right? But still didn't get a green light to move forward. And I think my guess again is Sony does things like that because what it doesn't want as part of the voice track is, hey, this thing sold really well. However, we're still abandoning it. Right? Because then you get a lot of answers and feedback back that you didn't ask for and that you don't want. Like, and so we look at the PlayStation. I mean, there haven't been, as far as I can tell. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. There haven't been solid numbers reported on things like PlayStation Portal, and other peripherals that they've come up with. We've heard bits of like high level hand wavy statements like, oh, it sold well or it's sold out or blah blah blah. But I wouldn't, it's possible that it didn't sell well because people didn't see the effort being put behind it, the commitment to it. It's also possible that this thing didn't sell badly, just as far as, I mean, the only comparative envelope is PSVR. So the only expectation I ever had was that it was going to sell at a level that's commensurate with PSVR, and for that you have to. You have to level that glide slope against the total installed user base, right? So you have to look at how many PlayStation 4s there were in the wild at the time PSVR launched, in the total addressable market, and look at what was that percentage, right, of that user base, and then apply that percentage against PSVR 2. So it's very possible that PSVR, which would have put you at like a couple. Like 2.5 million units would have been the best expectation. So it's absolutely possible that it sold 2.5 million units, but still, because of some of the other technical things that I brought up, the end result could have still been, can it, right, and move on and convert those resources over to something more useful.
Yeah,
no, it seemed weird that they only at one point had it at the. I think you could only get it at the PlayStation Store. Now it eventually came to places like GameStop and Best Buy and stuff, but I think the initial launch was kind of like weird. Like if you really wanted to walk into a store, you were pretty much SOL. But a lot of people are used to doing pre-orders direct from Sony, but it just felt like it would have been better if they. I guess it also depends on distribution at that point. But
supply chain, right? Because at the point at launch, we were just in the bare vestiges of coming out of supply constraints, and then for a VR headset, the thing that would have been, I think, most constraining would have been the optics. And so if they weren't getting the yields out and the production rates out that they needed, that it makes sense why they would have maybe only had it available. I think that period of time only lasted like the first 3, maybe 5 months at most. And then it was available at retail.
Yeah, and I still see it at retail. I mean, it's readily available. I mean, but I think what's interesting is that, there was a lot of, at least in my opinion, there was a lot of what seemed a lot of support behind this device from Sony. And as I mentioned earlier, they just don't seem to talk about it much. I mean, they'll show like a game or two, like I think you mentioned in the this past state of play, but outside of that, it's not really a focal point. It's kind of a thing that's out there within the Sony ecosystem or PlayStation ecosystem, but it's not something that I see them really kind of marketing or really discussing. The focus is always the PlayStation 5, right.
So Which was the same thing. Which was
Yeah.
the same thing we saw about the Vita, right? That they would
Yeah,
come to
yeah,
showcase
yeah, exactly,
after showcase and not mention the Vita, and we were waving red flags and saying, "Hey, you might want to take that as a signal that maybe don't go run out and buy one of these things right now." And I would definitely say the same thing about the PSVR2.
That's because the PlayStation 5 is the center of it all, so they will always use that as a reference point. But when it comes to the Vita, the reason they stopped talking about it is because it got hacked. So they weren't going to support it anymore. They weren't going to put more games on there. They pretty much shut down that store because there was no reason, like nobody could make any money there because people were just, any game that was on the store, they would just download it. So once they couldn't control the store anymore, they couldn't control the OS. The Vita was pretty much over with. Like the Vita was supposed to be the companion to the PlayStation 4. It was supposed to be. That's why, like when they first introduced it, you could have cross buy, where the game would be on PS4, PS3, and on the Vita. And throughout the store, if you bought a game, you got it on multiple devices. But once it got hacked, there was nothing they could do about that. It was pretty much over. And
it was done.
Stopped supporting it.
Hey, B, by the way, B,
it had a different OS.
Yeah. By the way, B, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Yeah, what's going on, fellas?
You ready for Hard Knocks?
Oh yeah, of course, man. The boys is looking good. All the little highlights they've been putting on Twitter.
We'll see.
It gets me excited every day. You know what I mean? So I'm ready for it, man. I'm ready. Chicago's a big, shit talk city. You know what I mean? So I know them boys gonna be going at it. Doing practices and whatnot. So it's gonna be good, man.
Should be a fun season. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead, Logic. You were chiming in.
No, I was just to say, yeah. I mean, I will readily admit that the causality is different. I think what I'm trying to say is, I would accept what we're seeing going on from a PR perspective. That like there's that less conversation about it, right? Is to me is the telltale sign that you should not expect that there's going to be a lot more.
Oh yeah, that in regards to that, I totally agree. I said this last year. I think when they initially were thinking about PSVR2 and what they could potentially get out of it, that reality is totally different today. I think going through the pandemic and people just look at money different. I mean, you can just see that with the transition from consoles. People aren't just running out spending money on frivolous things. You know what I mean? Like you see it all the time. People don't want to spend money on games. You know what I mean? So let alone an additional accessory that costs just as much as a console. So, it's just a different reality today. If it did just as well as a PSVR, you got to take that as a win. If not, you know what I mean? You put it on the shelf and you move on. At the end of the day, like it's not setting the world on fire. The Oculus is doing pretty well, for what it is. But even that, it's like I don't see too many kids even talking about that today. You know what I mean? That's not like I'm not sure what the Oculus 3 numbers are looking like. If they have eclipsed Oculus 2, but I don't see people talking about that as much as they were before.
Well, I think
there will be a time where like the VR will actually be that, maybe not like reach the 50% range, but like really start taking off kind of thing. Like, is it still the size and weight of the thing, or is it a pricing thing, or a mix of both? Or what do you think the timeline is where it starts becoming more of a sought after accessory overall?
I mean, I don't think it's ever.
Yeah,
I mean, the problem with VR is, like, if I stick to some of the theories we've professed here, right, which is that, for instance, the reason that there's stagnated growth around the console and PC industry is because there's only a certain max percentage of the population that you're going to get to onboard to that type of entertainment, right? I kind of say it jokingly, but I don't often mean it jokingly. Like we literally have people that are part of our race that like don't get relative motion. Right? That like can't look at two objects transiting through space at different speeds and like guess where those two objects are going to impact. Like so like driving a vehicle, right, is a thing that just like there's a certain max percentage of the population that can do it. I know we all act like, hey, everybody can drive, but no, everyone can't. And so there's only a certain number of people, and you look at the controller, right, and the digital coordination that provides, and that is not like human beings aren't born into that. That's not like a native skill set, right, that we're biologically programmed to onboard with. So then you look at VR, and that's a subset of that subset. Mm-hmm. There are people who can only who can't stay in a headset, and then even can only stay in a headset for a limited amount of time. Then you have problems of claustrophobia, sensory deprivation, all that sort of thing. That makes the total addressable market for VR a very limited set. And so you're just not going to be able to ever get to market penetration to a point where, in my mind, it's ever going to be like this explosive thing. And that's why I would argue, you even see already, because I've made this argument, like don't waste my time with VR, just get me straight to the holodeck. And you literally see Google and Disney and other people working on those technologies. Because at the end of the day, where the really explosive thing, I think, comes from, and really the next frontier of gaming comes from, is being able to immerse people in environments without requiring them to be in a headset, and putting them in an environment where they can use the native sensory perception that we are biologically equipped with, right, and not some weird wackadoodle offshoot, right, requiring people to perceive things in a totally different way that we were never made for.
Mm-hmm.
Real quick, gentlemen, Oculus Quest 3, I just did a quick Google search. It's estimated to be anywhere from 900 to 1.5 million units sold. I feel like I saw somewhere that was higher than that, but that's what I pulled up. I
thought so too. I thought it was selling better than that.
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit higher than that, but that's a quick Google.
Regardless of the sales numbers, I think the other thing that's at play here is how much the VR development community has gotten behind PSVR2. I think what we've seen proven, and this is why I talk about like those headsets, right? Those super expensive headsets, and where the Valve Index was, and where the HTC Vive is, and while there's not like a ton more of these things, right? We made really cheap headsets. We got Windows Mixed Reality, we got Samsung, Lenovo, HP, all these guys to make really cheap, expensive headsets that didn't help move the market. What people, even though higher end VR experiences are available on PC, and they're on PC when you're tethered directly to the GPU so that you can access all that power, at the end of the day, what people are okay with and what is moving the market more are lesser experiences that people can get in a headset where they're not tethered.
Yeah.
And so that's where, MetaQuest is doing better. And so if you're looking at, hey, do I make a game for the MetaQuest, or do I put my resources into making a game for PSVR 2? I think that's also causing some limitations and constraint, right? Because some of those studios aren't that big, and so they're making choices about which one they're going to do, because they are two, slightly different development environments, and I don't think it's as easy to make a game to deploy to both platforms.
Makes sense. Did I cut out?
No, you're still here. I don't know. Okay. BRAP, I apologize for nerding out, but you take back over your show.
Yeah, you know what? No, I was actually talking. I just realized I was muted. I was agreeing with you, Elijah. Say one of the appeals, at least for me, with the Quest, was that it allowed me to have an untethered experience in VR, and one of the first games that I purchased with Quest was Vader Immortal, which, it was mind blowing to be in your ship and kind of walk around the cockpit of your ship before you're boarded by, I think it was stormtroopers, and then actually being locked up and then having Darth Vader walk in and looking up at Vader. That was just an awesome experience. But I do want to move on to from VR to this week with regards to Summer Games Fest and the Xbox Showcase. Now, I said this before we went live to Fuzzy. I said, Fuzzy, this time of year kind of gets me a little choked up. We used to have something called E3. Great article, by the way, on GameIndustry.biz regarding E3, the history of E3. And it just, I didn't get a chance to finish reading the article, but it just, man, I tell you, I miss those big showcases. I miss those big reveals. One of my favorite E3 moments. Yes, one of them is the Shuei Yoshida and Adam Boyce trading games. This is how you trade games on PlayStation. But the one big one from Sony who goes back to, I think it was 1994, 95, where you could see this. You could see the video on YouTube where Sega just announced that the Saturn was releasing that day on retail shelves at, I think the price point was, I think $399, I believe was what Sega had announced.
Like $399.
And Sony comes out.
And Sony came out.
Yeah.
Sony they were like, oh, $299, and then just walked off.
Yeah.
Mic drop.
That's exactly what they did. Came out on stage, $299, and left. And that was it. That's all she wrote. The rest is history. And I was supposed to go to E3 2020, and I had my airfare booked, and I was going to be staying with the Iron Lords, and then COVID hit, and I didn't have the opportunity to go, and it's one of those experiences that I regret not having. I wish I would have gone to E3. I could have gone a couple of years before, but just didn't. I figured I'll go next year, and then the pandemic hit, and then now we just don't have E3 anymore. But B, I know you've been to a couple E3s, and do you miss the E3 experience, B?
Yeah, I miss being, in the crowd during some of these showcases. That was definitely, something that I always wanted to experience, and I got to do it 3 times. So yeah, happy I was able to do that. But like as far as like missing E3, like no, not really. You know what I mean? Like I feel like we have too many games as it is. You know what I mean? A lot of these games come out, they're not ready to go. Like they tease us with these games. We don't get the game until 4 or 5 years later. Like I'm over that. You know what I mean? Like that was cool, when you were in the crowd and you're able to experience it live. But like I said it, when Nintendo started doing a direct, I felt like that was the way the industry was going to go. And long and behold, that's kind of where we're at right now. I just think that overall it's better. Like, yeah, we get these smaller bite-sized announcements and things like that, but if we just got all the announcements like we used to during the E3 weekend, yeah, we have all this excitement, but like it doesn't mean anything because, like I said, half these games come out broken. We don't get the game that we were shown. You know what I mean? So like, I don't know. I'm over that part of E3. Like some of my favorite moments from E3 were like the Ubisoft showcases. Like you guys know, I'm a big Tom Clancy fan. Like to me, they start at the wait, we have one more thing. You know what I mean? Like when they first showed the Division, and that was like their one more thing. Like nobody knew what it was, and like Snowdrop engine looks crazy. You know what I mean? They show it with actual gameplay. That was the one thing about Ubisoft shows. Like when they showed their new game, it wasn't some cinematic trailer. It wasn't CGI. It was the game running. You know what I mean? And maybe you didn't get the exact game like when it released or whatever. Like what they showed you looked impressive. Like when they first showed Rainbow Six Siege, after we've been waiting years and years since Rainbow Six Vegas 2, and they finally show it, and it's a 5v5, and like you're infiltrating the house, and one team's trying to get the hostage, one team's trying to kill the hostage. You know what I mean? Like Ubisoft to me had some of the best like one more thing announcements. So that part of it I do miss, but we don't even get that anymore. You know what I mean? Like the thing about being, on a podcast and being so clued into the industry, like all that stuff gets ruined for us because like we know all the rumors. Everybody's leaking something every week, every day. We know exactly what the show's going to be, what's going to be announced. It's like it's not fun anymore. So that part of it, I'm over with.
Yeah, no, I hear you, B. I mean, you're right. Like the leaks, and there are leaks. There's leaks right now. I mean, it happens every year. But B, let me ask you another question. Who threw the best E3 parties?
Bethesda, hands down.
Yeah,
Bethesda had the best E3 parties. All you can eat, all you can drink. Everybody's on the floor. Todd Howard's on the floor. Pete Hines is on the floor. You know what I mean? Walking around, mingling with the people. You get to see all these people, that you watch on YouTube, that you say are friends and whatnot, colleagues of the industry. Everybody's there. You know what I mean? Everybody's rubbing elbows. Like they throw a hell of a party and it's always a good time. Live bands, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's great time. That part of it I do miss. Being there, going to some of the rooftop parties, going to a Bethesda party, going to the Xbox party. That stuff definitely was fun. You know what I mean? Just kind of hanging out with gamers, having gaming conversations. No fanboy nonsense, you know what I mean? Just really getting down to the nitty-gritty. That stuff was definitely fun.
Yeah. I'm sorry, gentlemen. Let me grab this super chat here real quick by Otacon also. It's $2 super chat. Thank you, Otacon says. How are you all doing tonight? Beach House is fire, BRAP. Thank you, Otacon. Appreciate that super chat. Any other thoughts on E3 before we move on to Summer Games Fest? All right.
I never got the chance to go. The closest thing I've gone to was a totally different industry, being the SEMA show. And just as I retired from that industry, and it's like, yeah, I think I'll go to this. And then that's when the pandemic hits, and it's like no more E3. But like if E3 was anything remotely close to like the experiences I've had at SEMA, and like what B Money described and stuff, yeah, I that would be things I would miss as well, and would wish that they would have found a way to keep up with the times and keep some of these studios and platforms engaged in their organization, much like the way SEMA kind of onboards some of their some of the people within the auto or aftermarket auto industry and stuff. It could have probably still survived, but it seemed like they didn't adjust with the times and see the kind of writing on the wall where PlayStation and Nintendo were doing their own thing pretty much, and then Xbox was like, well, we'll just be across the street kind of deal. And then everybody else is like, well, we get more traction with just putting stuff on YouTube. But considering, much like B Money said, since there's so many streams and so many showcases or other things online now, you get all of that info. Or if you're part of the podcast scene or just a fan watching some of these podcasts, you get some of that info even beforehand. Sometimes whether you like it or not, type of deal. But yeah, I wish it could have lived on a little bit longer, just so that way I could be like, yeah, I attended one in 2024, and here's pics of it, whatever. But there's still at least Fan Fest. There's still Summer Games Fest, which I think he still does live with a live audience. So we'll see how the transition from E3 to whatever we want to call it now, holds out, for the next 5 to 10 years and stuff.
Yeah, and so Fuzzy, what do you, as we approach Summer Games Fest, like are they games that you're hoping get announced, or the games that have already been announced that you're looking forward to get additional updates on?
With Summer Games Fest, I'm looking more towards games that I may have heard a rumor of something being in the works or some sort of team being put together, but like not officially announced kind of thing. Like I'm looking more so for surprises as far as games that are already kind of in the works that I've already, heard about. Maybe an update as far as a release date, but nothing really comes to mind other than, well, one game I know we already kind of have a release date, which is Black Myth Wukong, which I believe is either July or August of this year. And obviously, like, well, Grand Theft Auto, which they're saying 2025, but it's Rockstar, so I'm figuring 2026 or so. But we'll see how that lands. But I know there's one other game that I'm looking forward to. Me being a racing fan and NASCAR fan, iRacing got the NASCAR license, so I'm hoping to see what that, because I believe they're supposed to do it either using their engine or Unreal Engine 5, which I wouldn't mind them just using their own engine that they have for their online stuff. But they're going to make it as a console and PC game where you don't have to, sub to their, online racing subscription deal. So that way, like much like the previous, annual NASCAR titles, this will be theirs. And a lot of those guys are the ones that made one of my favorite NASCAR racing games of the, yesteryear with, used to work for Sierra and Papyrus, where if you remember, NASCAR racing or anywhere up to NASCAR racing 2003, that was like the epitome of where, or the pinnacle of where racing, as far as I was concerned, where those games had rivals where you could adjust the level of the competition individually. You could have a full field, all of them with paint schemes, customizable. It was easy enough to mod for tracks and things like that, which you can kind of do with the iRacing stuff, but I didn't want to have to subscribe and then see if I can download and rip and then do an offline thing with it. But if they can get this one just right, that's probably the big title I'm looking forward to, showing up somewhere, whether it's on Xbox's stage or, Summer Games Fest, either one. But I really want to see what iRacing is going to have for us as far as NASCAR, whatever they decide to call it, whether it's NASCAR 2025 or whatever. But other than that, I'm hoping Ubisoft comes out with something for Splinter Cell, because my hopes up for past 10 years plus. Everybody said, it's like Tom Clancy fan, Division 1 stand, Division 2 stand. And still playing a little bit of Division 2 on occasion. Actually, I prefer Division 1, but I really hope that makes an appearance. I figure it's going to be at Ubisoft's showcase, but give Summer of Game Fest or Xbox a bone, show it there first, and then have your deep dive the next day kind of thing. But we'll see.
Yeah. What about you, P-Money? Are there any games that you are hoping to see at the Summer Games Fest?
Kind of like Fuzzy, like it would be dope if Splinter Cell showed up. We know that Ubisoft's working on a new Ghost Recon game that's supposed to be going back to the OG formula. So it'd be cool if they tease that. Maybe they already announced NCAA. That's probably one of my most anticipated games coming out this year, which releases next month. So. I'm not sure if they'll show any more information on that, but we know 2K's working on a FIFA game. We know that they're working on an NFL game, so if that was to show up there, that'd be pretty cool as well. Other than that, there's not much that I really have too much interest on. The other games that I'm kind of interested on, they're kind of locks for me. So I don't really need too much information on other stuff, really. So that's kind of like the thing. Like, I know it's supposed to be like this exciting weekend, but like I'm not really hyped for it, to be totally honest. You know what I mean? Like, F has put on these shows for quite a while, and they're good shows. Have great production, things like that, but. Yeah, he never delivers on the expectations or has anything that's like super hype in regards to stuff that interests me. So I come to going into it with low expectations.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I mean, I had kind of had a conversation. I had a conversation with Logic earlier today. I kind of said that if I see some things excite me, great. If I don't, so be it. But I admit it, I'm a little bit of a funk right now. But Logic, is there anything in particular that you're interested in seeing at Summer Games Fest?
The drama.
The drama. What do you mean? Like, what do you mean by drama?
I just want to see what unfolds.
Oh, okay,
To be quite honest, I mean, look, I mean, I think part of the thing you're suffering under, although I gave it other causality earlier today, I think part of the thing you're also suffering under is we play on PC. So I never have any question whether or not the games are coming. There's always going to be games that are coming to play on PC.
That's a great point.
I just don't worry about it. And when I want to tag something and when something catches my eye, more often than not, I'm going to catch it outside the mainstream. So I'm not going to catch it on IGN. I'm going to hear about it from Rock Paper Shotgun or another one of these PC centric sites or Destructoid, and I'm going to tag it on my Steam wish list, right? And I'm going to be able to track it until it shows up, and I'm going to get a lot more news that way than most of the way the console stuff comes out. So that's part of it. But I'm just curious to see, kind of again as a business case, as a case study, how Xbox walks up and handles things this year. Phil Spencer's Twitter account has not tweeted anything out since the studio closures. There have only been retweets that I've seen. The only member of the GLT that's been out in the public has been Sarah Bond, and she's been getting much more FaceTime at these things over the last few years. So it's just going to kind of be interesting to see how they manage the whole thing.
Yeah, the PC. To your point, I agree with you on PC. I mean, I do primarily game on PC, and I think for me, like I have a PlayStation 5 console, but I pretty much own that for exclusives primarily. I mean, I will play some third party stuff on occasion on PS5, but more often than not, it's going to be PC first. But actually, I do have a couple games that I want to see, that I'm interested in seeing. I believe there's a 2K or Gearbox in particular is going to show us a bunch of things. We're going to see Borderlands 4, so interested in that. I do want to see. We talked about Ubisoft. I want to see some more Assassin's Creed Shadows. Dragon Age Dreadwolf. I mean, that's another game that was teased, and it was teased that was revealed at Summer Games Fest. It was actually revealed at Summer Games Fest, and so again, that was I think the only thing we've really seen from that is concept art. So that's another game that I want to see. Metroid Prime 4 would be another one, but I can't imagine we'd see that at Summer Games Fest. I think Nintendo would probably hold that. Fuzzy, you mentioned Splinter Cell.
I would assume that'll be announced later this year when they officially announce the next Switch.
Yeah,
that's a great point, B. Yeah, that would make sense as a Switch 2 launch game. I'm sure they would release it on the Switch as well. But yeah, but Fuzzy, to your point about Splinter Cell, I love Sam Fisher, big Splinter Cell fan. Disappointed that they abandoned the series. I understand why they did, but still disappointed. And they've said, hey, we're working on a reboot, and we just haven't heard or seen anything of it. I would love to see that. That would be something that would get me excited. But the other thing too is, as I think about Summer Games Fest and I think about my excitement level, like there's the Elden Ring DLC is coming up, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see that Summer Games Fest. So it kind of going into this in my mind, at least with Summer Games Fest, is like I already know there's games that I need to get to before I start looking at other games, and that's kind of where my mindset is at right now. Elden Ring being the big one, that big expansion that I believe is somewhere around 30 to 40 hours. And if you read Detective Seed's tweet today, could be longer than 40 hours if you suck at Souls games. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Like just mentally, like there's so much like I want to play right now. That why these other things would be great announcements. Like my focus, my attention is really going to be, especially this month, Elden Ring, because I'm a huge Souls fan and I love Elden Ring, one of my favorite games of this gen. So that's where my head is right now with some of these games that we're going to see on during Summer's Games Fest, and I do think there's some rumors that PlayStation may announce the I don't know if you've heard anything, B, but some rumor speculation out there that we could see the Spider-Man 2 DLC announced at the Summer Games Fest as well. Wouldn't surprise me if we see Kojima on stage. You know, him and Keighley have a good relationship, and so it wouldn't surprise me if we see some kind of Death Stranding 2 update of some sorts. I do want to move on to the Xbox showcase. And Logic, I heard you mention you're curious to kind of see. I forgot if you said if you're curious to see if Phil Spencer, like what did you say? Are you curious to see if Phil Spencer has a presence at the Xbox showcase, or kind of what their messaging is coming into the showcase? After,
both, right?
After the business meeting in February.
Yeah, I'm interested to see on who is really the talking dog, right, and really taking the reins. Is it going to be Phil again, or is it going to be somebody else? Yeah, I'm just kind of curious. There's Sarah Bond mentioned earlier that they were going to be talking about hardware announcements, right, about this time of the year. So it'd be interesting to hear either what those plans are or hear windows around when we're going to see reveals. Yeah, so I'm just kind of interested in the whole thing. I mean, even like I said during the acquisition, right? I wasn't a proponent of the acquisition, but I said, look, that's one facet, right, of who I am, right? There's a part of me that from a business history and the industry history, I mean, I don't study this stuff just so I can watch the status quo unfold. Right? I'm interested in the changes and kind of the lightning rod shifts in the industry. So, I was, from a historical aspect, I was interested in what the landscape would look like if the acquisition went through. So, same thing here. For Xbox, this is a time of change, right? They've talked about, the pivot. They've talked about putting up games on other platforms. They've talked about impending hardware announcements. So I'm just kind of curious to see how it unfolds. I think, for the most part, we kind of know what to expect from PlayStation and Nintendo as far as the future, right, looks like. I mean, it's still a console game, and it's proceeding on through this generation and into the next. But the door's really kind of wide open for Xbox, in terms of what could be what could be the curveball, what could be the new ground that they head out on. So it's an interesting time.
Yeah, I'm a bit more coming into this showcase. I'm definitely more optimistic on Xbox in terms of what they're going to show, because I mean, they have so many studios now. I mean, a lot of studios right now, and I think they're going to have a lot in the pipeline. One would hope they would have a lot in the pipeline, and so I think Jeff Grubb actually earlier today said about 30 games is what he's heard, and so I'm like, okay, 30 games, that's a lot, that's good. Obviously, they're going to have the Activision event with Black Ops 6 after the Xbox showcase, but at least for me going into this, I'm just a bit more optimistic because they do have a lot of studios, and my expectation for them going forward, because they have so many studios now, is that they will have a lot to show us, I hope. And so, yeah, I'm definitely more optimistic with this show than I have been with other Xbox showcases in years past. And excuse me. And they've shown off some games that I'm interested in getting updates on. Fable being one of them. B-Money, you and I, not you and I, but at least on this show, we've talked a lot about Rare's new game, and now the name escapes me. Is it Everwilds?
Yeah, Everwild.
Yeah, and it's like we did hear there were some development issues there. They kind of went back to drawing. So that's another game that I'd be interested in getting an update on. Obviously, the things they showed us earlier in the year, Indiana Jones. Want to see more of that. That's Avowed being another one. Some of the other games from Gear 6. There's that rumor that we'll see Gear 6. And I see someone saying Shadow Strong saying Gears of War 6, let's go. Look, I'm excited to see a Gear 6. And, there's that rumor that with that kind of Gear 6 announcement that we're going to get maybe a Gears collection which wouldn't that really wouldn't move the needle for me, but I could certainly see how other people would be excited for a Gears collection. But yeah, I mean, they look, they just they have a lot of. To me, they just have an opportunity here to show off a lot of new stuff, either updates on stuff that we already know about or new games, and that's what I'm hoping to see from the showcase. Because again, they have a lot of developers under their roof now, and I expect them to just show us a lot of content and content that's just gonna cater to different taste. And there's I should also mention the rumor of I think you said this earlier, Logica Hardware. There's a rumor that they're going to give us a glimpse of the handheld, so we'll see if that comes true. But yeah, like I said, I'm definitely a bit more optimistic about this show than I have been in years past. So, we'll see how they do this weekend. But I do want to welcome quickly to the show. I want to welcome Innate. Innate, what's going on, man? Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely, man. How you doing? What's been going on?
I'm doing well, thank you, Innate. I do want to go to you, Fuzzy. So Fuzzy, how excited are you going into this showcase? Because again, like I just said, I'm definitely more optimistic than I have been in years past here, just because they have so many studios now.
I'm decently excited and it's in several different ways. Like I'll start off with probably the low hanging fruit, which would be like updates or ongoing support for some of their ongoing games. Like I'm hoping to see Forza Motorsport make a reappearance where they add more tracks. Like I really want them to add Bathurst or Sebring or like Long Beach, and there's a handful of others like Coda that I would love for them to have in the current one that they used to have in 7. And I'm also hoping that they bring drag racing. Now, I'm not as much of the drifting fan, but if they can bring that mode back as well and show how it's implemented into motorsport, that would be awesome. I'm really hoping they do, show up and give like a an update, like maybe 2.0 or whatever you want to call it, kind of thing. Also looking forward to possibly seeing the Shattered Space DLC. Like I got a lot of hours, or I should say a lot of days in Starfield, and been playing, like I had like 5 playthroughs simultaneously, so that way I could play it all different ways and do all the different factions and try different things and whatnot. But looking to see what Shattered Space brings to it. They already had like a recent update, for visuals and frame rate and all that stuff for console, and hopefully they'll have more of the official modding tools for the PC end of things. And but mods that are already out there are pretty cool. So when the official tools are out there, it'll be interesting to see where some of the creators out there take it. But outside of that, like some of the games that we saw from like the launch of the Series X, I really would like to see where Perfect Dark is. Like I'm figuring it's a 2025 title, and I'm also figuring Fable's probably a 2025 title, although we did get to see that last year. I don't know if it makes a reappearance, but at least Perfect Dark needs to get some sort of highlight or update type of thing. And I think State of Decay 3 is another one that needs like a highlight or update of where that one is. I'm hoping that they're both like scheduled or slated for 2025, but we'll see how that goes. But on the ones they showed earlier this year, like your Indiana Jones and Avowed and Aura and stuff like that, figuring they'll probably give us like an official release date. Like those should be the ones before the end of this year that land in the service and stuff like that and are readily available. So hoping that they have those dates cemented or however you want to put it. But as far as new stuff, I really hope that some of the hints from Jack Black when it comes to Double Fine, maybe we get to see a part 2 to, now the title escapes me, having a senior moment here, but would love to see what Double Fine is working on. Would love to see
Psychonauts, follow up to Psychonauts.
Something from it was like after Psychonauts 2 they were supposed to do what was it? Oh, Brutal Legend. That's what it was. My gut is telling me
okay,
that Brutal
gotcha,
Legend
yeah.
2 is kind of in the works.
Okay.
So hopefully, that makes an appearance. I know there was that Kiln thing that they were working on as like a side project a while back. Maybe that makes an appearance as well. We'll see. There's also been some projects that we've heard about, like Project Shaolin, which is like that Wu-Tang ARPG. So I'm interested to see what that like looks like and stuff. So I'm hoping that makes an appearance. Me being also a Flight Sim fan, Flight Sim 2024. I want to see what that's about. I mean, I'm hoping they named it 2024 because it's releasing in 2024. But we really haven't had much other than I think they had like a closed test like a month ago or something like that. But not much word beyond that type of thing. But hoping that makes an appearance at the showcase. But I don't know. I kind of thought like considering how Outlaws made the appearance at the Xbox showcase last year, and then Ubisoft went into a deeper dive the following day. I was kind of hoping that maybe because of the relationship where Splinter Cell first originated, maybe it makes an appearance at the Xbox showcase, and then you get the deeper dive type of thing. I mean, all we need to see is like the goggles and hear that sound type of thing, or at least to show that thing is actually coming out soon. That would be pretty cool if they have something like that. But I don't know. I'm hoping there's going to be 30 plus games there. I remember from somebody that's kind of on the inside on those things and kind of helped with the showcase last year that they were originally looking at 3+ hours and then they had to cut down, or there was definitely things that are going to be cut from the show or moved or whatever. But, I would expect at least 30 games outside of, the whole Call of Duty Black Ops. And then they got to, go through the whole motion of, hey, all the Call of Duties are in Game Pass. And whether they do that in one lump sum or if they do them in series, like, oh, you'll get the Black Ops first or you'll get the Modern Warfare's next. And, however they want to divvy that up. But considering there was a ABK team that was in incubation, what was that, Elsewhere or something like that, I doubt they're far along enough to even see a CGI from them, but whatever other teams they may have been incubating or some of the other ones we haven't heard from in a while, to see what, maybe they have something to bring to the showcase as well. I'm expecting the Coalition to be there. Gears of War 6 should make an appearance, and like you said, maybe we get that Phoenix collection finally. As like that stopgap, because I'm still thinking.
Fuzzy, I'm sorry, man. Speaking of Gears, I'd like to get a follow up to Hivebusters.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed Hivebusters, but who knows?
Yeah, it would be great if they did like kind of like a spin-off series, like and that's the thing. It's like I wouldn't say it's a complaint of mine, but like the one thing I wish they would do, and it seems like they were afraid in the past, especially with Halo, to overuse the brand or whatever, but like there needs to be like another Halo Wars. There needs to be like maybe a spin-off franchise, not necessarily in the ODST style, but like whether it's a kind of like a horror thing against the flood type of deal, or if it's like like just something different, like to change things up. I'm more of a third person perspective, shooter, more so first person shooter. I know you're never going to convert a Halo game into, or an actual, numbered Halo or, in that series into it, but do a spin-off, whether it's Locke's story or something. I just try some different things. Like you remember when Helldivers came out and it came out afterwards that something like that was, pitched and need to start looking deeper into possibly trying different things, not being as afraid to try things, although I kind of understand risk averse and well, what if it doesn't succeed and all that money is wasted, but it's like you never know until you try type of thing. But I'd like to see them do stuff like that also with like the Gears franchise, like instead of like Gears Tactic, what was that game, The Ascent? Like I almost would love to see a Gears-like game that's not turn-based, like The Ascent was, but in the Gears universe kind of deal. Like I would like to see them try just some different things sometimes. But I also hope that, like, as far as with like Gear 6 and Elder Scrolls 6 and even Forza Horizon 6. It's going to probably sound silly saying that I'm expecting all these in like maybe 2026 ish range, but those three, if they make an appearance, that would be great as well. To see where they're at. Really hoping that Forza Horizon 6 is in Japan, as the entire community has been asking for probably the past two franchise titles and things, and you know do it on the current gen only, and see what you can take it to, type of deal. But to have that type of landscape for like a Forza Horizon 6 would be pretty cool. Show it at the showcase. Yeah, if it doesn't come out to 2026, at least give us a taste to let us know. Yeah, it will be in Japan, so you can quiet the people constantly asking for it, kind of thing. And then just know that maybe that's the next gen cross gen title. But also looking forward to this handheld. I kind of want to see if this thing is going to be the stopgap between PC and console, where we've heard rumors it might be ARM. Well, that means they're going to have an emulation layer. Emulate console on there, emulate PC on there, at least in the current form that things are. And you don't have to worry about third party licenses to play your native Xbox games on that same platform that you might even play your Steam games on. So I don't know. Kind of looking forward to see if they bring that dream through, or if it just winds up being an Xbox version of a ROG Ally, or an Xbox version of a Steam Deck, where you'll still have to like jailbreak things for some of the games in your existing library, or whatever the case might be. But we'll see.
Yeah, Fuzzy, did you mention Contraband? Was that
No, I
I lost
completely
audio for a
forgot about
second.
that one. That's
Yeah,
another
that's
one
another
where
one. Yeah.
Avalanche had layoffs. So it's like, originally I was thinking those layoffs might be like, oh, well, the game is wrapped up. They should be finishing up. You slim down until their next project, Just Cause 6 or whatever I guess they're up to now, or Just Cause 5. Um, but yeah, I've heard that some people have had like the betas, or closed betas, as far as testing and stuff like that. I would hope that that makes an appearance, whether it's that it's coming soon, or coming in 2025 or whatever. But I want to see more in that CGI, because if you're going to have a heist mechanic with car combat, I'm interested. You already got my interest peaked, so I want to see what that's going to be about.
Yeah, and I want to go to Nate. Nate, is there anything in particular you might be looking forward to at the Xbox Showcase?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot on the table. I mean, Fuzzy brought up a lot of good points, of things that could be, things that we're pretty sure will be. Um, I mean, he mentioned Forza Horizon 6. I feel like it may be a little too soon, because I kind of still feel like
Yeah.
they would want to put a little more shine on Motorsport, especially considering they went through like all the trouble to really update the game a ton. They went back on the issue they had when they had first started out, where each car had to be leveled individually and all the weird stuff. Again, I don't know who designed some of these systems at some of these companies, uh, but sometimes I'm like, did y'all play that and think that was fun? Like, that was just like a really bad decision. I don't know if you played it, Brad, but leveling every car individually, I'm a huge car guy, so when I played that, that drove me crazy. Um, so
BRAP only plays bangers, and racing games don't stimulate him.
Yeah, I play good
no,
games.
I get that. I get that.
I play
He was
Souls
considering
games, by
Unicorn
the way.
Overlord, so I'll let it slide. You know. But yeah, so I mean, I'm assuming they'd want to show a little more of that. Probably the track updates and stuff y'all were talking about earlier. I just really think they really need to flesh that game out some more if they plan for it to have any sort of legs. And also Forza Horizon 5 is also still getting like crazy updates, which is weird. So that's another reason why I say 6. As much as I would like to, and I would definitely love the Japan setting, but I kind of feel like we won't get it. But that was also the same thing with Assassin's Creed for years, where
Yeah.
we begged for it and then they finally gave it to us. And I'm just gonna give a shout out to Ghost of Tsushima on that one, because I still think that's what finally got them off their ass. But yeah, the definitely, like I said, I'd love to see Forza Horizon 6 if it's gonna be there. Um, State of Decay 3, I need them to show up in a big way. I need, all this newfound backing, this, Microsoft's brought us in, we're first party, and I mean, what I'm really hoping for, not only just to see that, but also um State of Decay 3, just the building of your bases being brought to the next level. I always felt like they barely took advantage of that. Like you brought people in, but nothing really happened. Um, and stuff like that. Like it was very basic. So I'm hoping, now when you bring people in, your base will evolve and a lot more will happen there. Like I said, I'm just really looking forward to seeing that and the evolution that team has gone through, that I hope they've gone through, and really have been able to step it up. Fable, for sure. That was one of the few reasons I played 360 back in the day. At my friend's house, Fable was big. The initial showing looked good, but I need to see complete. Um, I need to see some full on gameplay. I need that PlayStation reveal. I need somebody to step on stage and play this damn game. Seriously. Um, Sorry, my girlfriend was talking to me in the background. Uh, but yeah, I need them to really step it up as far as that goes. Stalker 2, go ahead and nail down that release date. That game looks phenomenal. I'm gonna play it on PC, which is, they're a PC first developer, so I'm really looking forward to that. Replaced, the indie game that they showed, that looked really cool. I'm actually looking forward to a release date for that. I hear both of those are lining up. And they both happen to be from, both the dev teams are from the Ukraine. So I'm assuming they're either helping each other out or whatever. But it looks like both of those are going to line up for 2024. Hopefully, we'll see Perfect Dark out of, being perfectly in the dark for once. We'll see more than a JPEG this time, hopefully. I'm really curious. I know a lot of people love the original Perfect Dark. I don't have that attachment, personally. Like, I didn't really love it or anything, but yeah, it looked good. Um, the original looked good. So I'm hoping the new one is really good. So we'll see and go from there. But yeah, I don't know. There's so much to go on that I'm not really sure what else, because there's just so much on the table. Like I said, listening to Fuzzy and stuff talk about some of the stuff. Obviously, we're gonna see Gear 6. So I hope they really are able to take that to the next level and not just give us the same thing. So and then we'll go from there.
And by the way, everyone, I apologize. I guess there's some audio issues. I don't know what's happening. I actually lost audio for a second. I think it's a Discord issue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got you.
Yeah. Someone's saying it's a bit of echo. Yeah. I apologize. As I said, like I got, my audio.
Is it just when I'm talking?
No, I think it's everyone. Like I got my audio cut off and I don't know what happened. I left Discord, came back in. And so I don't know what's happening. So I apologize. I'm trying to figure out what's happening, but yeah, it says everyone's
No
echoing
problem.
except for me. Let me see here.
Oh, okay.
Let me try something here. Yeah, Nate, go ahead, say something.
Yeah, testing 1, 2, 3. Count of 3. Let's see.
Yeah, I don't know if that's working or not. Yeah, you know what? It's Discord. So yeah, they're saying it's like a hollow sound still echoing. Like yeah. I'm sorry about that. I don't know. I have no idea. Weird. Yeah, it's weird. Sorry about that. All right, B Money. What about you? What are you looking forward to at the Xbox Showcase?
I just want to see what they're going to do with Gears. To be totally honest, they kind of left Gears in this really rough spot. With the way they ended the last game, I know that they moved over to Unreal 5, and the game is going to look beautiful, but all of that doesn't matter if they can't, kind of turn the story around and get the community enthused again, because the last two games people fell off really quick. The multiplayer kind of died like really relatively quick after the release. So there's kind of been this battle between people who don't play the game at all and trying to say that the gameplay needs to change, and diehards who are, like myself, who prefer that, there's minor changes to the gameplay to try to bring people into the game. I think what's happening now with a lot of these multiplayer games is, that everybody wants to have like these big communities, and I think a lot of these teams just have to realize that you can only serve a certain amount of people. With the introduction of live service games and people kind of tied to those IPs, it's hard to release a old IP and still think that your community is going to come back and play it. So I think they have to make adjustments for new IP and old IP going forward, that want to have a traditional multiplayer model, because your community just isn't going to be as large as it once was. So I really want to see what they do with Gears. Hopefully we see more of Clockwork Tower. I want to see South of Midnight and Fable. So those are probably like the see. Hopefully they have some some exciting new stuff coming from studios that we've been kind of waiting for. And hopefully they have some sort of multiplayer games, because if you just look at the roadmap, a lot of their stuff is single player focus, smaller focus. So hopefully there's a variety of multiplayer games coming as well.
Speaking of Gears, B Money, and I'll throw this out to the panel, see what you guys think. Is it time for Marcus Phoenix to just to be killed off at this point in Gears? Because I'm over Marcus Phoenix. He great in the first 3 Gears. I didn't care for him in Gears 4 or 5.
The thing about having Marcus Phoenix around is that the characters that they introduce, nobody cares about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you gotta think, like, if the original trilogy of Gears came out today, everybody would say the game was woke, because it literally had every ethnic group in the game. There's women characters that you could play in the game. You know what I mean? Every race was in the game. So, like, to me, Gears just came out at the right time, and when they reintroduced it, like, nobody cares about those characters. Like, the story that they try to tell is, nobody cared about the story, so you don't care about the characters. Like, JD is forgettable. You know what I mean? Like, Dell's character, like, why do you care about him? And Kate has, some reason to be there because they kind of focus the story around her. But everybody else is like, they meant nothing to the story. So, like, when you bring the OGs back, it's like a breath of fresh air. It's like, oh, yo, at least we got them. You know what I mean? Because these characters they got right now, like, I don't care about them. And that's the problem that they have. Is like, they have no connection to those characters. People don't care about those characters.
But yeah, I mean, I hear you, B. Like, on the and in my opinion, I look at that from the lens of nostalgia of, okay, yeah, like we know who Marcus Phoenix is. We've developed this, I guess, relationship with him throughout the first 3 Gears, but like, for me at least, he just doesn't work as a character. He's just not interesting to me anymore. The groaning, the yelling, like the grunting, that worked for me in the first 3 Gears. And I'll go to Hivebusters. Hivebusters was a great experience for me. And they introduced 3 new characters there. Each character had a unique story. And I really liked each character because each character was different and had a different backdrop, different story. And they kind of flesh out their own personal background stories as you as you play the game, as they're conversing with one another. And I left and I put the controller down with Gears, and I said, wow, like this actually, I want to learn more about these characters. Like this was actually a pretty engaging game, new characters, and I bought into it. And I know some people don't like Kate as a character in Gears, but I actually like her introduction in Gears. I'm not going to spoil her background, her story, but I thought she had an interesting story and background, and she was a bit different than the Marcus Phoenix cast. She wasn't, like Marcus Phoenix is kind of comes across this guy who's, quite he's skilled with the chainsaw and weapons, and he's like juiced up on roids, and she's not like that. I think there's a bit more depth to her, and so
Yeah.
that's what I'm like.
I feel like they need the reboot, man. I feel like that's where
Yeah.
you're headed. I feel like they need that. They need to turn it up to 11. I need that God of War 2018 reboot, man. I need to be interested, man. Like, and like you said, I feel the same way that you said. Like, I'm not a big Gears fan like you were and stuff, but I played and I beat 5 when a lot of people hadn't, and Hive Busters, and like I don't feel compelled to know where the story's going based on what I played. Like, if they're basing it off, just Gears 5 itself, there's the campaign, and I'm like, I've never felt that, and I felt like a lot of fans felt that way, but they kind of excused it because of how much they love the multiplayer. But it's like, I would think you would want this big, compelling, great story, because when I used to hear a lot of people talk about it the way that you are, right? When you said, like, originally, Gears 1, 2, and 3, how they started off, everybody was really hyped for the story, what was going on, what was about to happen to these characters, almost like a Mass Effect level type thing, you know what I mean, as far as like being interested in the story and what's going to take place. And I felt like I felt like things were just kind of happening in Gears 5. Like, they just were kind of reacting to everything. Things were happening, and they were just trying to survive, essentially. I mean, there was some, like you said, some back end stuff there with what was going on with Kate, and so on and so forth. But like, to me, it just didn't feel as compelling as what I know is told to me from people who are big fans of the series. That's why I was like, I mean, I told somebody, I hope they knock it out the park. I hope they can really revitalize the franchise, because I do feel like it's taken a decline in the hype level, and how excited a lot of people are for it, and especially bring it back in a big way, like you said, campaign wise. Or you say, money?
We lose B. I thought B was chiming in too. All right, I want to go to Logic. Logic, what are your thoughts about Gears? I know you and I talked about this earlier.
Yeah, you mean about the collection or about the next Gears?
No, the next Gears, kind of what we like what me, B, and Nate were discussing in terms of the characters, and of course I'm like, just get rid of Marcus Phoenix. And I just like not everyone agrees with that, but yeah.
I mean, for me, because I fell in love with Xbox on Forza, Gears, and Halo. If you continue to give me that content, then yeah, I'll be there. I'll show up. I don't know how well Gears. What was the first Gears again?
2006?
7?
2007. Yeah, 2007.
Oh, was it 7? I thought it was 2006.
So when the first Gear showed up, let's take a walk back. Height of Xbox Live, things were great. You had the host Xbox was the server. He could run the show, kick people out of the room that weren't vibing with the group. It was a whole thing, and there was a whole fervor behind that. Like, as every game showed up, right? Because Xbox Live, the Xbox Live component was a requirement for games to participate in some way when they deployed to Xbox. So, I mean, there was just a huge bow wave of support behind just Xbox games in general, but in particular anything that showed up with a multiplayer component. That's not where we are today. It was also early 2000s, which I can't remember when does The Office take place? Did The Office also come out in the early 2000s? I can't remember. My point being, a lot of humor on The Office, it's cringe. Like it gets there, right? I know a lot of people find The Office funny, but there are certain bits on The Office that like take it like up to that point where it gets cringeworthy, and I think that's a matter of the time. You know, I can't remember exactly when The Office was.
It was 2005, and I totally agree with you.
Yeah. 2005, 2013.
Just put me onto it about a year ago, and I watched the whole thing, and I was just like, I was loving it, but like you said, the humor, I was like 98% of this would not fly on today's like television at all.
Right, and it's not even necessarily because of that. It's because it would have been super hilarious and funny back in the early 2000s because those things happened.
Exactly.
Right, at volume in the industry. Like none of those, like almost nothing on The Office would occur in a corporate setting today.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, my point of that is relating it to Gears, right, in the setup. I just, you know, BRAP and I were talking earlier today. I just don't know how much the aggro bro. You know, look, I'm an aggro bro. That's the type of gamer I am. You've got me with that kind of stuff. You know, I just don't know that plays well on the market today. So, you know, I mean, whatever they need to do to evolve the story, I don't know. You know, I'm sure I'll be there. You know, it's just a matter of, you know, again, as we always ask with Xbox, unfortunately, you know, is that going to be the thing that draws other new gamers in and new players and moves the needle for them?
Yeah. Again, I mean, I've been saying it for years. Kill off Marcus Phoenix. It's not a popular take. I get that. But I don't disagree with it, Nate. Like, yeah, go ahead, B.
I think what you said about Hivebusters, I think that's how they should have brought the series back.
Okay, yeah.
Like totally new characters, you know, not tied to any of the old characters. And just start off an entirely new story with you tying it. You know,
I don't disagree with that,
being Marcus's son, and tying it to the original trilogy. I think that's kind of left the series hamstrung. You know what I mean? Like you can only walk so far away from Marcus because JD's his son. You know what I mean? Yeah. So his name will always be brought up. You know, there will always be some reference points to the original trilogy, but I think if you started with totally new characters, that aren't tied to that, maybe you could, reference it, in the first game or whatever, just because of the legacy or whatnot. But you can kind of move on from there and have their own story. But once you connect it like that, you can only go so far without referencing the original trilogy.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see if they show us Gears 6, if they give us any inclination, and I don't want to spoil anything for anyone, but there's a interesting there's a pivotal point in the story of Gears 5 that I'm curious to see if they address that, or if we see that being addressed and any kind of Gears 6 reveal, because that even that was tied to Marcus Phoenix, that's the one part of the story that really, like, okay, this is interesting. And I'm not going to get into specifics. I don't want to spoil it, but I'm just curious to see if that's something they address in any kind of Gear 6 reveal. But, it's, but again, I mean, as I said earlier, I'm just more optimistic for this show. Hearing 30 games is a positive.
I think they have so much to play, man, or so much to put out there.
Yeah, so many studios.
Super excited. And I know you guys get a lot of rap for that on this show about like you don't want this or you don't want that from Xbox. No, like you definitely want that. You've always been excited for that stuff. You wanted them to do better. It's like a matter of wanting it, though, doesn't mean they're going to, right? Like I want this show to be unbelievable. You know what I'm saying? I want to be like so hungry for Xbox and have people who are making choices out there want an Xbox. You know what I'm saying? Because to me, that if Xbox is doing A+ work, then it's just going to make the competition come that much harder. and they're going to feed off of each other, which is what we always want, right?
Yeah.
I just think there's so much I'm interested in for a long time, and I haven't been that way for Xbox, to tell you the truth. Since the Xbox One launched, like I haven't really been. Like we had one, and it was just kind of there, right? My girlfriend just wanted to try it. It was her first thing, her first Xbox. She was like, "Let me give it a shot," and it just didn't work out. But like right now, more than ever, regardless of me playing them on PC, like I want to be nothing but excited for these games. Like I said, that bringing Fable back and all that stuff. I hope, you know, Perfect Dark is the knockout of the park that we hope it is, and all these other things. You know what I mean? Like you said, there's so much they have that we either haven't seen or they're set to, you know, set up for releases. Like, I mean, they should be launching games from the end of this showcase till the end of this generation with all the stuff they're supposed to be having lined up. And that's what I hope we really get out of it, man.
Yeah. I mean, if they
Let's keep it for real, the PlayStation we have today, is because they were getting their asses handed to them with the 360. And out of that, we got all of the great franchises that we have today. We got God of War. We got, you know, the continuation of God of War, but more so we got, you know, Uncharted, Infamous came along, you know, The Last of Us. Like all of these things that are kind of tentpoles today all came out of them just being hammered in the corner, right by the 360, just getting slobber knockered right by, you know, Xbox Live.
Love a GR reference.
I mean, I hate to say it, you know, but you know, maybe it's tough love, right? This generation and the last generation, but you know, maybe we'll see the same kind of response from Xbox, you know, after getting their asses handed to them for a decade. But yeah, I mean, we get a lot of the stuff on here that's about like, you know, we don't want Xbox to succeed, and like, I mean, like I've said multiple times on the show, you know, first of all, where Xbox is nowhere where I was predicting at the beginning of this generation by any means. I thought this was going to be a fight. I thought they were going to be closer. I thought we were going to be closer to parity. And just like Nate said, right, is because that's what drives competition. That's what gets us better stuff. I'm going to be quite honest. PlayStation has pulled shit this generation that they would not have been able to pull had it not been for them not having a lot of competition. You probably wouldn't have gotten necessarily the $50 increase to the PlayStation 5 digital. Right? There's lots of other things that you probably wouldn't have gotten. You may not have gotten the number of remakes that there have been. And I'm not saying that those were bad choices and bad selections to make, but they were opportunities they had because they had wiggle room. That may not have been choices you made when somebody's breathing down your throat. You know, so
yeah, somebody
hopefully
mentioned
things
it in
go
the
well.
chat, but I was going to say the PlayStation Plus price hike. I mean, you still probably would have got it. I mean, because inflation is crazy, but it probably wouldn't have been as egregious. You know, they would have thought about that a lot more.
Yeah, and I also, at least in my opinion, I don't think you. One of my complaints recently has been I do think Sony's been a bit more quiet, and I don't necessarily know if they would be as quiet as they've been if Xbox was breathing down their neck. And
exactly. And I 100% agree with that, because the question you asked earlier about when you miss E3, I didn't miss E3, the show floor. I missed the back and forth when you mentioned this is how you share games. You know, when PlayStation, it was Super Bowl Sunday of gaming, and everybody took the day off, and you were home, and you were watching these showcases, and you knew a lot of times, depending on how hard the Xbox showcase went, it meant PlayStation was going to go even harder. Like, I missed that back and forth, that direct competition, where it's like, all right, you know that thing that we held in the back that we said we weren't going to reveal? Well, Xbox just killed it. Bring it out. You know what I mean?
And we've heard stories to that effect. We've heard stories about how those teams would go into E3 and they would have 2 or 3 things in their hip pocket, and they would say, we're not going to reveal this unless. And then when the other guy did something, right, then the handler, the executive assistant, slipped the dude the piece of paper and said, like, this is on deck now. We've heard stories about how they would literally have 2 prices in their pocket for their console. And depending on what the other guy did, that would tell them, right, which one of those prices they were going to reveal.
Absolutely.
But
yeah,
you know, I don't think you necessarily have that going on today.
Yeah, I just think, yeah, and I think too, my concern with Xbox this generation too is while I think they've done some good things, they often tend to step on the rake, and I think you said this earlier, Logic, like you're looking forward. One of the things you're looking forward from the Xbox showcase is kind of get an idea of the messaging, who's doing the talking, and kind of the, I guess, strategy moving forward. I hope I got that correct. But,
well, I kind of laid back a little bit because I didn't want to be as much fire and brimstone tonight, right? But here's to go hand in hand with some things that I said earlier today, right? About wanting, actually not today, earlier this week, because somebody was accusing us of taking a dig at Game Pass. And I'm like, it's not about that. It's because what I want from the companies that provide products that I want are in the markets that provide product categories that I want. In order to drive competition, is I want execution. I want operational excellence. I want competition. I want effective marketing and messaging, and not muddled messages. So in my opinion, I hate to even get into this. In my opinion, what Xbox needs to do is they need to true up the ship. And what I mean by that is, and look, again, lots of people I think get it twisted because they don't know the history. I was not where you see a lot of the Xbox content creators going today and in the first 5 months of this year, where a lot of them have abandoned ship, a lot of them have I hate to use the term turncoat, but like switched up colors. That's where I was 2 or 3 years ago. Because in 2022, in early 2022, I started smelling something that told me something foul was going on in Bethlehem. And the messaging started getting muddled, it started getting inconsistent, it started getting conflicting, and it just got worse and worse and worse and worse. And I don't get it. And so in my mind, what Xbox needs to do with this showcase is they need to true up the ship. They need to try and, as much as they can, wipe the table of a lot of the questions. They need to be very clear. And quite frankly, I don't care. I mean, at this point, they've burned enough of the crop that they need to not be hyper focused on pissing people off, right? They need to come out with a clear, straight, precise message that removes and doesn't leave as much doubt and lack of clarity in people's minds as to where they're going. If you're gonna put more games on PlayStation, then just put the flippin' Don't do this timed exclusive thing. Don't do this thing where you come up, okay, let's say you've got 30 games. Don't do this thing where you have like 10 where you don't put any logos at all at the bottom of the screen, right? And then put logos on as far as what platforms they're going to. And then put logos on others, right? My point being, don't be that inconsistent in your messaging, right? Be very clear on where games are going, because it's what everyone's asking right now. And who cares if that bothers people? You are at such a low share, you're at such a low market share right now that it shouldn't matter. Don't give people head fakes on what you're doing with hardware and where the platform's going. Because whatever it is that you're gonna do, you just need to tell people, right? So that they can coil up and think about what they're going to do and where they're going to land for the next generation. I think a lot of this is speculation. I think a lot of what's been going on at Xbox in this year has been a lot of decisions and choices that may not necessarily be the things that the GLT wanted to do. And I think that what they have tried to do is that they have tried to soft pedal that and like soften the blow and like try to retain loyalty in the face of knowing that they're going to say things that are going to piss people off. But in that constant tug of war and back and forth, that messaging has just continued to get worse in my mind. And so my thing is, come out, show the games, tell people where they're going. Whatever you're doing with leadership, whatever the GLT is now, wherever the people are lining up, right, the chickens in a row, right, with musical chairs shifting or whatever, like get people seated and just move forward.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't want to make too much of a big deal about it right now until we know more. But super strange to me that Phil Spencer hasn't tweeted anything out since those studios closed.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and we saw and this is the same kind of thing that we saw with Pete Hines, right? That he clammed up after Redfall, and there was almost nothing from his Twitter account. And the next major thing we heard was that he was leaving. I'm not saying Phil's retiring. I'm not saying Phil's getting fired. Whatever. But what has been looking like it's happening is that Sarah Bond is being pushed more and more so to the front. And if she's going to be the face of Xbox, they just do it.
Yeah.
Like, stop.
you're saying rip the Band-Aid off. To your point, Logic, like if they're gonna put games everywhere, right? Like, and I think that's gonna be one of the conversations that's gonna come out of the showcase. And I think unfortunately people are gonna weaponize it, which is dumb, for console warring, which is dumb. But you know, like if they're gonna bring like I know we mentioned Contraband earlier, Fuzzy. Like if that game's gonna if there intends to bring that game to other platforms, just come out and tell us. Like, say, you know what? Even if it's like timed exclusivity or timed exclusive on the Xbox ecosystem, the Xbox through Game Pass and whatnot. Say, look, you know what? Yeah, this game's coming to Xbox, but in the future it will be moving, you know, to the other platforms. But if you want to play it, you know, sooner than later, you know, you can play it on Xbox. Oh, and by the way, we have this thing called Game Pass that you can play it on at, you know, for $100 and whatever dollars it is a year, plus all the 300 games it comes with. Oh, and by the way, we just got Octopath Traveler 2. Like just do that, because I mean, clearly to me that's the direction they're heading anyway. So just, I mean,
yeah,
don't try to be cute about it. Just come out and say it.
Right, exactly. Like and I apologize for sounding frustrated, but like Phil Spencer came out. What was it? Was it last? It wasn't this year. It wasn't. It was before the Redfall. Mea culpa. Maybe this was the fall of 2020. Maybe this was the fall of 2022 interview, right? You know, I'm not. You know, I don't. You know, I'm not. I forget exactly what he said, but I know one of his colloquialisms in there was like, "I'm not. I don't have anything hidden behind my back." But like literally every time since then has been, no, yes, you actually do have something hidden behind your back, right? And I'm like, and here's a great for instance of what I'm talking about. Call of Duty is coming to Game Pass now.
Mm-hmm.
Xbox Game Pass Core doesn't get access to the game. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate does get access to the game and will be able to play the multiplayer. Mm-hmm. Xbox Game Pass on console will get access to the game, but Xbox Game Pass on console does not include multiplayer. So those people will get access to Call of Duty, and I know I'm sure everyone is all like amped up, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know that they've connected the dots that they don't get access to the multiplayer. Now, if you're going to do now, what they have recently announced and confirmed to Eurogamer is that Call of Duty is coming to Game Pass and there are no new tiers. So essentially what they've messaged is that Call of Duty is coming to Game Pass and we're not changing anything. This is June of 2024. Mm-hmm. If that company is going to change something in Game Pass tiering and access costs between now and the launch of Call of Duty, the forthright thing to do would be to say something about it now. If they hold on to that and say something about it in August or September or sometime in the walk-up to the launch, that is the type of thing that I'm talking about. That is the type of thing that, to me, doesn't establish trust and transparency. That is the type of thing that telegraphs you do have something hidden behind your back. Because at the time that you said a thing, you must have known by definition that you were going to do this other thing. Just like when they said, well, we're not going to say anything about Starfield now in January of 2023, and then 6 weeks later announced that it was delayed. When they must have known in January that the thing wasn't going to make the 12-month plan. Yeah. Like that kind of stuff is the stuff that's got to stop.
It almost feels like they're flying by the seat of their pants on some stuff, but like I would have to believe that a price hike, if they were smart, would have to come after it's already in Game Pass, just so that way you give less of a dig for FTC to come after you because of what was mentioned in court. Not that it's completely enforceable, but they did say that one of the things was that they wouldn't raise the price in doing this, you know, Call of Duty and Game Pass. Now, economy of scale changes over time, blah, 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 but that would be something that not only would the community push back, but now you're also going to have the FTC breathing down your neck because, well, you said, hey, you were putting this in here, and that this wouldn't be a direct result. So I think if push come to shove, they're probably best eating whatever costs that has increased between now and probably the next Call of Duty going into it, into the service in 2025. Which I doubt they're going to put a pause on Call of Duty annually, but if they should, then yeah, maybe mention it in 2025 that you're doing a price hike. But for the meantime, yeah, you're right. The best thing would be to either get in front of it now or just sit on it and absorb the costs until the following year, kind of thing. But we'll see if that winds up being the case. But yeah, the messaging from Xbox over time is it always feels weird. And I think one of the things that they're, I guess, learning late in the game now is that it's probably better to be quiet on social media a bit more, much like their competition is. Typically they don't engage with the community as much, and I think they've seen the pushback and all of the repercussions and consequences of being as engaging with the community. Yes, Sarah is still engaging, or at least making posts, and Phil hasn't made any posts, but the position he's in at this point, like, we're not going to see Hiroki Totoki making posts, so like he should probably step back and let Sarah take the reins of it, type of thing. That's what she was put in charge of, and let her, right the ship or navigate the ship accordingly, kind of thing. But I don't know. I'm totally fine with them going silent on social media as long as they deliver the stuff like they show either at the showcase or when they show, release dates, they stick to them, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But that's probably the big takeaways. And how, like, the thing with Game Pass, you're right. It stinks, and it was a crappy layout between core, console, and what do you call them? And Ultimate, because the PC players don't have to pay for online, so they get the game and get the online without any problems. But your console players don't. I mean, yes, they can play Warzone for free because that's a free to play game. But the actual multiplayer that you just gave them in the service, they can't, touch. And there's no more live to purchase. So it's like there isn't like an upgrade path other than to, just get rid of console and make everybody ultimate, or just make it where console has that, online. They just don't get the EA Play or, the cloud streaming stuff. Like that would be the right thing to do, but I don't know. I don't foresee them doing that either. So we'll see. Yeah,
no, that's no, fair points. I mean, again, and that's not, again, I'm not, I know people in the comment section later will say, that we're being negative towards Xbox, but no, I think to kind of circle back to Nate's original point, like a lot of this is coming from I think Logic, you mentioned the 360 generation and seeing them, like, to me that was peak Xbox, and now that they have all these studios, I'm like, okay, now they addressed one of the criticisms we had of them, that they didn't have enough studios, and now they have first party studios, and so I think, at least for me, and I think the panel would agree, like, I just want to see them execute on this, whatever it is they're trying to do, and do so in a way that is a bit more consistent than they have in the past, because that ultimately that's going to benefit those of us who are in the Xbox ecosystem, and hopefully push the competitors to do a bit better. The competition is good. We all benefit when there's more competitors in the space. They push each other, drives innovation, drives quality. Those are good things for consumers. So. Any other closing thoughts on the Xbox showcase before we wrap up the show? All right.
No, not really. Just looking forward to it, and looking forward to a lot of the other showcases these next couple of days. Like,
yeah,
Ubisoft is high up there. Then I think, isn't there like a PC or a future game showcase or something?
There's
like
a
that?
future, future game.
Yeah, there's a PC game show, I think, on the same Sunday as the Xbox show.
That is the definitive showcase, by the way, Logic.
Is
And the
EA not
Devolver
doing
digital
one too?
one as well.
I don't think I've heard of an EA
I
one.
think they're
Yeah,
going
I
to
don't
be at
think
Summer
EA is
Games
listed.
Fest. I think they're going to be at Summer Games Fest,
Yeah.
but not their own like
Yeah,
standalone
EA
show.
doesn't do their own thing anymore.
Yeah, they're going to do like the Summer Games Fest thing. But yeah, I don't disagree. But I would like to see them do their own thing. But gosh, I tell you what, Fuzzy, I heard you mention Perfect Dark Zero. I really hope we see that. That is a that you talk about the Xbox 360 generation. That was one of the games to have at launch. And I hope we see it. Fingers crossed.
But what do you guys think is going to be?
You mean like all the what we'll definitely see?
No, as far as
Yeah.
Perfect Dark, like what do you expect from it?
I think it's going to be a first person. At least that's what I've heard. I don't know if they go with that body cam perspective or not. I'm in my perfect vision of it, and you have to keep in mind I was never a Nintendo guy, so I never played the original Perfect Dark, and I didn't become an Xbox guy until Xbox One generation. So for me, in a perfect sense, I would like to see it kind of like Xbox's version of Splinter Cell. Say, and go from there. If they can incorporate stealth elements, and if you have to, where you can go loud with gunplay, so be it. That's what I would like it to be, and have it look visually, outstanding. Like, don't necessarily go with more of the artistic style that we've seen with the earlier Perfect Darks and stuff. Go for more photorealism kind of thing. If they can pull that off, I'll be happy with it.
Yeah, see, like for me, I'm hoping that it isn't first person. Hopefully, it's a third person game. I really wanted to play similar to Splinter Cell Conviction. If it was, or even Blacklist, Splinter Cell Blacklist, if it was along those lines, I think it would do pretty well. I think if it goes first person, and if the multiplayer is similar to the old multiplayer games, I don't think it's going to do that well. I think they, for this to be a reboot, I think they have to totally reboot it, go with a different perspective, and just evolve the franchise. I think if they try to what the franchise was, I don't think it's going to do that well.
Yeah, that first person perspective beat. It's funny you mentioned that. Like I was kind of thinking about when Fuzzy said Splinter Cell, then you said I forget which Splinter Cell you mentioned. Is it Blacklist?
Yeah, Blacklist or Conviction.
Or Conviction. I mean, yeah, I kind of would like that perspective, that third party. I know Perfect Dark Zero was first person. You could dual wield weapons, snipe, things like that. But I don't know if that I just don't know about that perspective anymore. From a storytelling perspective, I kind of agree with you guys. Like that's kind of Splinter Cell third person perspective. That's something I'd like to see. I think that'd be clearly be kind of an evolution of that game. But we'll see. All right. So look, it's going to be great.
Before we get out of here,
Yeah, go ahead.
Logic said that they should basically stand on their square, and if they're going multiplayer,
Oh yeah.
then just say it. So, do you guys think they're going to say it in a showcase, or is it something that's going to come out later?
Out later, if need be. Like I don't foresee it being full on just yet, but I do see it in their future. I don't know how near or how far, but I think it would be one of those things where you may not see any logos at the end other than mentioning, hey, it's Game Pass day and date. And then you find out on the browser, hey, it's exclusive to Game Pass for 2024 and other platforms in 2025, other than day and date for PC, obviously. But or if there is one that winds up being a day and date, I think that other than Call of Duty, because I don't even know if they show other platform things for the Call of Duty thing, but I do think that would be on the website or the Xbox Wire or whatever after the showcase as opposed to during the showcase because
Yeah.
yeah, I mean they're going to get pushback either way, whether they say it in the showcase or not, or have it in the small print. But I think at least this time they'll try the small print, see what the pushback is from the community, and then adjust accordingly down the road. But I think that's the approach they take.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're actually going to address the things that I suggested they should because they haven't for the last 2.5 years. Um, I think practical things that I hope that they do is this thing's supposed to be 2 hours long. Like, please don't give us Trailer Palooza. Please do what Ubisoft does. Let the developers come out, explain what the frack the game is to people. Like, don't do what you did in 2023, where you show Bijou Bayou and Clockwork Orange, right? And then nobody knows what the hell those games are, and the only way you can figure it out is to go read the blog post over at Xbox Wire. Like, take the time. Like, if you're gonna let it breathe, take the time to explain to people what they are. And I hope I hope that's why the thing is so long. That would be like a tangible, like pragmatic process improvement they could make to this year's show that wouldn't cause them to have to be entirely different than the organization that they are.
No, I 100% agree with that. I mean, recently we were going over past E3s, and one of the big things that you see is, or a couple of the reveals. Everybody's favorite reveals are always the ones where someone comes out and they play the game. You play the game, show it off, talk about it. Like Horizon Zero Dawn, they came out. We got this new game, this and that. The trailer played, and it went right into her sliding down the hill, and you hear the crowd just lose their mind and just gasp. Like, give me that for Fable. Same thing with God of War. He comes out, boy, let's go. And then starts playing immediately on stage, live. Show me these games are ready. These games are in a playable state, and you guys are confident in what you got to show us. Like, I 100% agree with that. I don't want the constant sizzle reel. Like, I want to hear from the devs and really see these games played and really showed off. So yeah, I'm 100% with you on that.
They have some disappointing news for you. They've already said stuff like that is the next day. So Avowed, and I forget what the other title is. They'll show the deeper dives the following day.
The sit down the next day.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna do the like developer sit down. Yeah, that's right. They're gonna do that next day.
Yeah.
And I'm actually that's not optimal, but I'm actually okay. I'll take that.
Yeah.
They didn't
I actually do like the sit
last
downs. I like the sit downs.
Yeah, I don't mind that.
They're trying to learn from their previous ones. Like, that was one of the feedbacks that they got for 2023. I think they did do something like that in 21 or 22, where they did the sit down and they didn't do it, and then it's like, yeah, at least have that the next day. So for the people that was like, oh yeah, that game caught my attention, now you can actually see them playing it or explain some of the systems. Like, we've been seeing Clockwork make some posts about like the weapons crafting and stuff like that. That's the one I think you see the next day, where it's like, here's all of the different systems, and here's you go from this basic weapon to upgrading this, and let's go back into time, and stuff like that. I really want to see what that's like for Avowed, because Pillars of Eternity being a cool environment or universe, want to see how far that spreads, because they've only shown like a couple of other clips as far as the biomes and stuff, and with the vibe being different than what the original CGI was years ago, it'd be nice to see a lot more of those biomes and things like that.
I tell you, in terms of
and for people who didn't get the joke, Bijou Bayou is my joke name for South of Midnight, and Clockwork Orange is my joke name for Clockwork Revolution. And my point being that those games tend to not stick with me because they didn't tell me what they were during the showcase, right? I had to go off and read about them later.
Yeah. I did want to go back to the handheld, because again, that's something that's been rumored that they're going to tease or show. Do we think that if they show the handheld, that this may be something that's going to a piece of hardware that they'll probably release later this year?
If they talk about it, they're going to show it. That's one thing that Xbox is usually pretty good about when they have hardware announcements. If they're going to talk about it, they're going to show it. It'll be a feature towards like the middle to end of the show. Um, that's typically how they do their hardware announcements. So we'll see. I mean, it's been rumored for a while. It's a lot of people have been talking about it. So if it shows up anywhere, I would think it would have to be here, and then kind of prep for the rest of the year of the release cadence of their games and what to expect from the hardware.
So I guess if they do that, I guess the point of the handheld is to be. I mean, I guess that's them saying that, kind of like they did last generation. Like 2017 to me was them starting to say, "Look, we get it. Xbox One ain't it. So here's the stuff we're gonna do to get you lathered up for next gen." And I was totally fine with that at the time. And all those things that they did, the acquisitions, Game Pass, all those things were very engendering, right, to the fan base. I guess the point of the handheld, if they go that way, introducing it here mid life cycle, mid generation, is to be the on ramp to next gen, where they're going to switch things up, and maybe the next thing isn't a purebred console in the way that we've commonly come to know it. It's something that leans more in the PC like direction, like various people have talked about, and that will be less obtrusive to you because you've been conditioned to have this handheld PC like thing that's analogous to a Steam Deck in your hands for 3 or 4 years, and you're ready to make the jump.
I actually think that's exactly what it is, Logic. I mean, because there's been a lot of conversation around that they're going to have a device that is basically kind of blurs the lines between console and PC. I mean, I think it was I forget who it was who mentioned that there'll be like a Windows mode and there'll be like an Xbox mode. It'll be seamless. You could kind of go back and forth between both. But I think that is getting people used to that idea of that kind of like PC console hybrid device, where you can access your Xbox. I mean, they talk about it. They always talk about removing those barriers and just having access to games everywhere and anywhere you go. And I think that's what this device accomplishes for them. And it speaks to their overall strategy as an organization. I mean, this is what Microsoft does as a company anyway. I mean, they, Satya's talked about, we want to bring our products, our software where people are. And he's never, he's been on record. He doesn't agree with the idea of exclusivity or exclusives on one platform. But I think that's exactly what they're doing. And this is kind of that transition point for them.
Although I still say this,
a risk though.
I mean, like they're
a risk to isolate, the fan base that they have now.
I mean, I honestly, their console sale. I mean, they're having problems selling hardware.
Yeah, I mean, they're less than 10% of the.
Yeah, but that's my point. You're not selling the traditional console now. Now you're gonna tell people, all right, go buy this handheld because like this is the next step in our evolution to our next console.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying, B, but I do think that there's a segment of the install base here that will definitely go out and buy this product. I mean, I'm hearing.
I mean, of course. I mean, we could say that about every product.
Yeah, no, I know.
PlayStation and about the PSVR2. That is.
Yeah,
that is blowing the doors off.
No, I understand what you're saying. I guess my point is like I hear Xbox influencers when they speak of the handheld, they speak of it as it is the next big thing. Like, and this is where they're confident this is where the whole industry is going. And so I think
they say that literally about everything.
I know. I know they do. I know they do. And that's a problem.
I mean, they screamed from the mountaintop about Game Pass for 5-6 years. And it's still in the same place that it's been.
Yeah.
So I mean, when it comes to that, I don't care what the Xbox influencers are talking about. I'm just looking at the market, and the market is saying that these PC hybrid handhelds aren't setting the world on fire.
No, but I think the thinking now is, I think what they're thinking now is they're never going to get back, right? There is no return to the 360 generation and fighting at parity. Right. There is, again, like what I've been talking about, right? There's the boutique play. There's the Microsoft Surface. Like, we're not going to sell big numbers, but it's going to be a very mind share kind of device. We're going to be known for it. We're going to sell in small numbers, but it's going to be the incubator that makes our software business go. So I feel like this is just them, doubling down on, a software-centric approach, and there'll be hardware along with it, but there's no expectation for that hardware to sell huge. I think, like Slow-Mo and Forte and I talked about on DPS, I think, what that paves the way for is the next thing, like I said, is something more PC centric, but it's also more expensive because you only care about retaining the diehards, and really, quite honestly, that less than 10% mix that they're at now is one of two demographics. It's their diehards, and it's the people that don't care, right? And what I mean by don't care is that, like, I'm not saying that as a derogatory. I mean, it's the people whose primary concern is low cost of access. They've gone out and they've bought an Xbox Series S. They've paired it with Game Pass. They give it to their kid or whoever, and they get 500 games every month, and they don't care, right? It's in maintenance mode, and it's not something that they have to worry about. And I think for them, I assume that they're getting the cost of the USB stick down or whatever, and so that'll be there, and then they'll have their handheld, and they'll have their close to PC type of device. Although what I keep saying is, don't dual boot it, because in the history of digital electronics, there's never been a product where that's a good experience. Particularly if you're talking about selling that to people who haven't made the move to PC. Like, just skin it, just put that Xbox front end on it, do it just like the Steam Deck, allow people to get into the desktop mode so that your nerds can do that if they need to. But just have it be a single boot device. There's no need to skin it because Xbox isn't some wildly disparate operating system as opposed to Windows. It's not like you need to dual boot it between Ubuntu and Windows, or Mac OS and Windows. Just boot it and kick that front end in front of people and have that locked down, and then have a way to get behind to Windows directly that the nerds can go through.
Yeah. I think if anything, they're probably their next phase or next step would be to actually export that software to ROG or to Legion and things like that. For this device, is for me where I'm at now with having a Steam Deck, having a gaming PC, having all the consoles and stuff like that. As long as I can take my already digital library and play it on this device natively, and then possibly do some of my Steam library, because they talked about allowing other stores on their platform type of thing. If I have this one device as opposed to worrying about, let's say, a Steam Deck 2, and this is on par or somewhere close to where a Steam Deck 2 would be, and it can play my console games and my PC games, that would be a godsend at that point. Because like right now, can't play any of my console games natively. I could either do remote play on my Steam Deck, or I could do the Game Pass app thing through the browser, step-by-step thing that they list on their site. But it'd be better just to have it where it's native, play it on the handheld, and if I can get a Steam game or something I bought in the Windows PC store, possibly on there as well on that one device, as opposed to having it sectioned off. I don't have to worry about third-party licensing and dual entitlement on stuff. That would erase probably some of my bigger gripes as far as like cross progression and stuff like that.
Yeah, if you take that front end approach, you can license that out as an SDK, just like Siemens, Allen Bradley, and Rockwell do for their supervisory layer HMIs. And then at that point, you can get that stuff over to the usual suspects, right? All their laptop partners, Samsung, Lenovo, HP, Dell, and they can all go off and build different types of these devices, utilizing that Xbox front end,
That's
and
one of the
everybody will
rumors, by
feel
the way.
like no matter what hardware you're on, it's all the same thing.
Yeah, isn't that one of the rumors that they're going to have partners build like this kind of Xbox portable device? Isn't that one of the rumors?
I don't know. I don't.
Rumors, yeah.
I don't.
What you're describing,
I don't keep up with the rumors. I've just written what makes sense.
you read the news. I understand
some of the wackadoodle stuff.
No,
that
I get
I've heard.
it. Yeah, but that's one of the rumors that what you just mentioned about like having partners kind of build that out like that. That is one of the rumors I believe too, that they would have like partners, kind of like what was it 3DO did, with licensing. Yeah. So
I'm kind of surprised they didn't do a license thing of the Steam Deck. Like, you know how they had the B&O headset where it was like designed by or designed for Xbox. Why didn't they do because it seemed like Gabe was all about, sharing some of the specs or the schematics for the Steam Deck. Just have a, Steam Deck that's, designed for Xbox or something like that. That would have been like a no-brainer, or at least it seemed like a no-brainer. But
see that
their partners.
Yeah, the
really
partner thing makes sense
preventing anybody
to me.
from doing that now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, Steam OS is an open source operating system, right? You can go download a version of Steam OS and install it on a box of your own.
Yep.
So there wouldn't be anything wrong with, I was running a Linux box with Ubuntu, right, with Steam on it, and could kick to Steam big picture mode. So there's nothing preventing anyone from doing it right now. I mean, it's just people, obviously, I mean, not obviously, but either don't have the interest or have determined that like the investment isn't necessarily worth it. But I mean, they could absolutely do that. And this is one of my mild frustrations with people when they were saying, "Oh, Xbox needs to make a deal with Steam to do." I'm like, no, they don't. Like they can make a PC and download a version of Steam OS and integrate it with an Xbox UI at no cost. Like they can do that now. So I mean, there's methods and ways to get about doing that stuff. That I think makes
few
it.
in the community have already kind of done that more recently too. So yeah, it. I always wondered if that would be the thing that Steam would eventually push into. Bring back almost like the Steam box type of vibe. Not necessarily saying that they want to get back into the console space, but it almost seems like one's trying to become the PC, video game system, and the other one possibly becoming more of the console base after the Steam Deck. It seems like it would make sense.
Well, I think the problem is what has everyone scared is what the industry learned last time from the Steam box thing was they don't sell.
Yeah.
So they were being sold on the Steam storefront. PC gamers weren't buying them. They weren't convinced. Despite PC gamers being the nerds that they are, like Linux as the operating system of choice for video gamers has just never taken off. Like it's at its biggest Steam hardware percentage now because of the Steam Deck. So I feel like the takeaway from the whole Steam Deck thing was, HP, Lenovo, Samsung, all those guys are looking at, Steam OS and their ability to do that. And they're saying, yeah, F that. We'll just put Windows on a handheld, right, and go that way, because we know PC gamers, at least some PC gamers will buy it.
Makes sense.
Yeah, no, great point, gentlemen. It is past the 11:30 hour. I do need to wrap up. Great conversation, by the way, and want to thank everyone in the live chat for coming out and hanging out with us this evening. Really appreciate the support as always. Please do me a favor and hit that like button if you haven't done so already. If you're new, consider subscribing, hitting the bell notification so you're alerted when we go live. And I want to thank our guests here this evening. I really want to thank first time guest here, Fuzzy Belvedere. Fuzzy, been a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. And I'm not sure if you want to be found on social media, but if you do, please let everyone know where they can find you.
Well, greatly appreciate the invite. Thanks for having me on. Always awesome, getting to talk to you about gaming stuff. Same thing with Logic, and great having the first time talking with B Money and Nate. Love you guys' takes, and hey, it's all about gaming, and that's what we're here for in the end. May have different preferred platforms, but it's all cool. Those that want to hear my rambles and rants on anything gaming related, just find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at fuzzy_Belvedere. I'm on, a ton of more Xbox centric podcasts, but a good bit of them are, I guess you could say universal gaming as well. I do have my PS5. I play a ton of GT7, which if you see my social media posts, you'll see a lot of the clips and stuff like that. But yeah, appreciate the time. Thanks again for having me on, guys.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Fuzzy. Definitely would love to have you back on again soon as well. And also want to thank Nate, who's got one of the best gaming setups. If you haven't seen his gaming setup, you need to follow him on Twitter. It's really, I tell you, Nate, it's pristine, man. What you have going on there, it's just, yeah. Love the RGBs.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Always looking for upgrades. It's the joke is that your gaming room is never done. You're always looking for something to change or upgrade. But yeah, give me a little bit more time. I'll get real dangerous. Let me get a little something like your beach house, and I'll be dangerous. But yeah, man, again, man, it was good being here. Like I said, it's always good to come chop it up on the Basement Radio Arcade podcast, man. Again, like Fuzzy said, man, it's all about the games. And speaking of which, I'm about to go play Uno with the squad, and that's gonna be a lot of fun. And then back to this backlog and finishing up Fallout 4, the next gen update. Going for the platinum on that, man. It's just so many good games to play, so many good things. And then obviously later this week, we got a lot of news that it's probably going to hit the waves. I'm looking forward to hopefully getting a release date for Plucky Squire, because that game looks phenomenal if you guys haven't seen that. But yeah, man, again, if you guys want to find me, it's just at the Real Innate on like they said, the app formerly known as Twitter. And we out of here.
Yeah, no, thank you again, Nate. I really appreciate the time. B, hey, great seeing you, B. I'm happy you joined us today to discuss Summer Games Fest and the Xbox Showcase. And again, B, I don't know if you want to be found. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But I'll give you the opportunity to let people find you if you choose to.
Yeah, man, you can find me everywhere. The same name, B Money 101. It was great to be here. My daughter is finished with flag football. They won the sixth grade championship this past Sunday. So no more practices on Wednesdays. Getting ready for other summer sports. So I try to get here as often as I can, but life be lifing. A great conversation as always, fellas. And like Nate said, man, just keep gaming. That's what it's about at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
A lot of great games coming. The rest of the year. A lot of people are saying that this is a down year, and they got nothing to play. I don't know what you're doing with your life, but there's new games come out every week, and there's something for everybody. NCAA is finally coming back. It is after 11 years. It will be back next month, so I'll be there day one, streaming NCAA football 25. So look out for my streams in the next month or so. But other than that, man, everybody have a great night.
Yeah, you too, B. No, thank you again, man, for joining us this evening. And Logic, again, I know some weeks you want to be found on social media, others you don't. I'll leave it up to you.
I don't. I want to correct some misinformation going on in our chat. I think somebody feels that like Steam OS isn't available, so I put the links in the chat where you can download the Steam operating system. I also put a link in the chat where Valve talks about Steam OS being open source with closed source components. So both of them are there. So I don't mind you asking questions or having perception or an opinion, but asserting that I'm wrong without the documentation to back it up. When I have the documentation available showing that I'm right, probably not a way to end on a good night. But the information's out there, so you can go look it up.
Is this a regular listener? Because I'm like, they should know.
I don't know. I haven't seen it before.
Okay, all right.
And I'm not mad. I'm just
yeah, no.
like the statement that no, you don't do that. It works a different way when, like, here, I don't know. I put the references out there so people can go read it and make their own decision.
All right, perfect. All right, and look, it's this week's gonna be a great week for gaming. Enjoy the Summer Games Fest show, the Xbox Showcase. It's gonna be great. We're gonna get a lot of great gaming announcements. Some of it may be for you, and some of it may not be for you. But either way, it's gonna be a great week in gaming. And yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of stuff to play right now too. Like B said, we have the Elden Ring DLC coming out this month, which I'm excited for. Can't wait to play that. And we will be back on Sunday. I don't know what time Sunday just yet. I got to figure out my schedule. But we will be doing a reaction show to the Xbox Showcase. I just don't know what time Sunday. So give me a follow on Twitter if you're not following me at BRAP_podcast. And I always post updates on when we go live and things like that. So definitely give me a follow. But everyone, have a great rest of the week. We will see you on Sunday. And yeah, just enjoy playing video games because ultimately that's what it's all about. We'll catch you next time. Thank you again.